we're going to have over the next 2 months. To kick this off, we are doing the research process, and each of these sessions are talking about resources that you might want to use with the students if your teens or emerging adults come in asking for research help. So my name is Christine Jansen. I'm a research and instruction librarian at Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'm also an adjunct professor for our InTech course, which is an information and digital literacy course that we teach here as well.
And I'm Sharon Rollins, the Youth Services Specialist in Library Development at the New Jersey State Library. And I wanted to just say a little bit before, as we get started, about, as I just admit one more person.
I didn't know that until right now.
Hi, I have everyone unmuted. You can mute yourselves, please. And because at the end, if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them. We have a little time at the end. And this is Sharon from the State Library, and I did want to let everyone know why we've done this, because we realize that students have been asking for information on how to do research, and we know that sometimes you haven't had a chance to actually take some of the courses, or it's been a long time, and the databases that the State Library provides for everyone are there, but you don't, unless you get a question, if you're in a public library, you don't always really go and use them. So this is kind of a way to sort of promote the State Library's databases, as well as the whole research skills training that not only you might want to have a refresher on, but also the students would need as well. So now we're going to go to the next slide for community agreements. And like most meetings that you've probably been to, where it is a little participatory, I'll just go over these community agreements quickly. Assume positive intent. We're all here to learn and grow. Respect all voices. Listen actively and speak with kindness. One mic at a time. So that's why you're all muted, but you do have the ability to unmute yourself when needed. Use the chat or raise your hand to join in. Yes, the icons are all at the top, unlike Zoom where everything is at the bottom. So that's the big difference in using Teams. Engage at your comfort level. Participate in ways that feel right for you. And honor time. Let's stay on schedule and keep the conversations focused. Tech happens. Be patient with yourself and others, because I know we at the State Library use Microsoft Teams. We don't use Zoom much anymore, so I know it's all different, and everything is, usually in a slightly different place. Share learnings, not names. Respect privacy and confidentiality.
All right, so today's learning objectives is by the end of today's session, you will be able to conduct effective reference interviews to better understand a teen's research needs, identify and navigate the key research databases of...
Yeah, I think let me mute everyone again. Okay.
Identify and navigate the key research databases available through the New Jersey State Library. Demonstrate how to use database filters to refine search results and locate specific types of sources. Show teens how to find and use pre-made citations within the databases to properly credit their sources. And explain and apply critical source evaluation methods such as CRAP, SIFT, and lateral reading to help teens assess information credibility. We're going to be doing this first by talking about information literacy in New Jersey, then review how that connects to the research process. We're then just going to go over again reference interviews when helping students with research, discuss research databases available through the New Jersey State Library, top database filters to use with teens, methods to assess information for reliability, and also discuss the database's citation generators. You're muted.
The reason why we at the State Library decided to do these series of trainings really it ties into the fact that the information literacy bill was passed into law in January of 2023. And are you, because I know okay, yeah, thank you. We received an IMLS grant and we called it Teaching Information Literacy to support the standards implementation by providing training, evaluation, support, and dissemination for educators, which includes teachers, librarians, and others. And we received this grant in 2023. And then, of course, in the spring of 2025, the grant was terminated. But luckily, we did get then it was unterminated, so we did get some the funding back. So right now, the information literacy standards for students in information literacy student standards are being they were developed by the Department of Education, and they are currently under review by the State Board of Education. And once they're approved, they will be the standards will be the time frame will be established. We keep hearing that it will be sometime in 2026. So the State Library, for this grant, we relied on the guidance from the Department of Education, and we created something called the four pillars of information literacy. I know if you look up information literacy, just if you Google it, some places have 7 pillars, but we're just doing 4. And we're working with a consultant, AIR, American Institutes for Research, they are developing a set of learning activities for all K through 12 grade bands, which is K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12, by winter of 2026. So it should be ready by like January. And then we're partnering with LibraryLink NJ to develop the 5-part online modules about information literacy as part of the grant. The 2 of the modules are already available on LibraryLink NJ, and they are more general. So it's not just for teachers or librarians. It could be for parents. The first module has to do with using information literacy to find a job. So those are all part of the grant that we received. And here, in case you're interested, are the 4 pillars. Identify the information need, identify information identification and evaluation, information use, information creation, and distribution.
All right, so now I'm going to tie the 4 pillars to the research process. First step of the research process is, and this is if a student is given an assignment, first, okay, what is the assignment? Identify and develop your topic. So what we like to tell them is, let's just say immigration is your topic. That's very broad. What is the scope of your assignment? Do you have 5 minutes to present a presentation? Is it a 5-page paper? How long do you have to talk about it? Because then you might need to actually start to narrow down your search. So a lot of students sometimes just jump right into say, this is the thing I need to do and I need to research, but we really suggest doing some background research first, just to get a little more knowledge about the topic. And there's so many different sources you can use. AI is everywhere right now, so just Googling it or using Perplexity, you can get a basic understanding, but there's lots of great reference resources as well. Like this is an instance where Wikipedia can just give you an overview, or any of the encyclopedias that you have access to will just give you an anything that's a tertiary information can give you sort of an overview. And some of the databases we're going to talk about today will also give you an overview about a topic and can inspire subtopics that they can then narrow their research. Once they narrow down their research, we then suggest that they develop a research question. Some writing professors have them jump straight into a thesis statement. So we work with both, whether it is a research question that they're created or it's a thesis statement. We then take that research question and thesis statement and identify key search terms. And that's how we come up with our search statements and our search strategies. So this is when we assess, okay, what words do we need to search up? Where does it, based on the requirements of the assignment, where does it make sense? Is the student allowed to use Google? Okay, then, all right, here's some Google sources that, things to be aware of, which sources to use. If they do need to have databases, information from databases or magazines or peer-reviewed articles, okay, great, then let's plan on which databases might be best for that. As they're searching, we bring to their attention all the other places that can inspire additional search terms. So in a lot of the databases, as you start to type in your search phrase, it'll say, oh, others have searched for this, or did you also want this? And this can inspire additional key terms and search terms that they may have not thought about. Also, of course, subject headings. Once they find articles that might be a good fit, they might learn additional search terms that would be helpful for them to search by looking at the subject headings. And then whether it is from a database or it's from something they find on Google, it's important that they evaluate all their sources to make sure that the information is credible and reliable, but also relevant. Does this actually support the claims that the student is trying to make? Is this the evidence that the student needs for their assignment? And then, of course, we want to cite. So how do you get the citations that you need and collect them into a works cited or references, depending if it's MLA or APA, looking at all the information you found and then trying to see, do I need any additional information? Am I lacking evidence for a particular claim I'm trying to make? Would I like to have a counterclaim that I can then strengthen my argument to then counter their claim? And that's that last part of the research would then be that I'm going back one last time to search for anything else I might be missing, and then diving into the actual writing or creating, because there's a lot of assignments now that are digital projects. It could be a PowerPoint, it could be a podcast, it could be a video. It doesn't always mean that it's necessarily written, but they're still required to do the research. So these are the main steps of the research process, and you can see how they connect to each of the steps of the pillar of the information need, information identification and evaluation, information use, and information creation and distribution. All right, so I personally geek out about reference interviews. To me, they're escape rooms, and it's like, okay, based on your assignment, what are the best key terms and databases to get you the sources that you need? However, so often they don't know what they need. So if you can request a student, if they didn't just drop by, if they said, hey, I need some help, if you could ask to see the assignment, that can be really, really valuable because there's some information that they might not even be noticing. Or if you know that they only need 2 articles, like now you don't need to find 50 for them. Let's just try to focus on the 2. So the reference interview is so important. It could just take 2 to 5 minutes. They sit down, they say, hey, I need articles. Okay, well, here's some questions to think about. When they sit down, just listening actively to give them the space to explain what their project is and asking some open-ended questions. So what does the assignment require? If they do have the assignment, that would be great to look it over. But if they don't have the assignment, some questions to ask is there a minimum amount of sources? And were there any requirements on the types of sources? So does your teacher require that there's peer-reviewed articles? Do they require any reference information? Do they say it has to be from a database, or do they allow sources from the web, like something that you would find from Google? So these are some good questions to ask up front. Then what is their topic, research question, or thesis statement? Because that is where we're going to get our search terms from. So if they have any combination of those, it's really helpful to then break down the search terms. And then, them explaining what do you need help finding? Which ties into what have you tried already? So a big thing that is big in the pedagogy now is to not say, not deficit learning, assuming that they know nothing. So it's always good that once you've gone through this, have you tried any databases yet? Have you tried searching? Because they might say, oh yeah, I went to Academic Search Premier and I couldn't find anything. Oh, okay, what did you use to search? and they might have used something that was more natural language, or they might have not used Boolean operators. And so it's not that Academic Search Premier didn't necessarily have what they were looking for. They just didn't know so much about the key terms and how to use Boolean operators or how to turn on natural language searching. So it does help you to narrow down that you're not showing them something that they always already tried, or you know where they did have success and what they might need now. So there are students who are like, oh, I'm doing a project on this. And I was like, great. What exactly are you looking to get out of this today? And they're like, oh, well, I already found all these articles. I just need this. But they didn't start with saying they just needed this. So the reference interview is so important. So you don't waste your time with the student and you can use your time together so efficiently. Always clarify and confirm, restate what they need to be sure, restate what they need to be sure that you understood again. So confirming exactly what are you expecting our time together to be. And this is like the biggest thing that we talk about in what we call one shots when we only get to see a class once a semester is you only have so much time to show them how to do what they're doing. So let's not overwhelm them with jargon. So I might just talk about, okay, we need to put an and I'll explain why it needs to be in capitals, but I maybe not call it a Boolean operator. Just trying to keep it simple to them, or also making connections. So you could say subject headings can inspire search terms, but then you could tell them it's like using a hashtag, you know, kind of make connections for them. So a lot of times people say databases are kind of like Netflix and all the journals you can access are like movies, like trying to make those comparisons so it makes a little bit more sense so they can kind of connect it, because we grew up that journals were very much print, and some are printed still, but so many are not printed anymore. And they just see it's on the internet and everything's on the internet. So really trying to help them to understand how a database may be different than information they find on Google. And then empowering their independence. We want them to be independent searchers in the future. So not just doing it for them, but as much as possible, try to share your screen and show them how you're searching so they can then go on and search themselves, especially if it's only 2 articles they need, then yeah, you could definitely help them with that. But let's just say they maybe need 10 or 15 articles. By showing them how to search, they can then go off and really more deeply read these articles to try to find the best ones. So the reference interview, so important when helping the teens. Excuse me. All right. So the state library funds specific databases throughout New Jersey, which you should be able to access through your own library's website. What I'm going to do today is point out the ones that are like my go-to ones when students need research, and then we'll talk about some additional ones. So there's 2 kinds of databases. There's multidisciplinary and subject specific. The multidisciplinary are just great that whenever you're starting a project, going to the multidisciplinary databases, because these are all the topics, all the subjects, there's almost always some articles you can find. But depending on the student's assignment, sometimes a subject-specific database may be just a little bit more helpful and have additional resources that they're not going to find through the multidisciplinary. So I don't see it as an either or. I see it as a both, that you start with a multidisciplinary and then move to a subject-specific. And it also helps because the multidisciplinary might inspire additional search terms and subjects terms that are related to the topic that will help you to search more efficiently in the subject specific. On the next 2 slides, we're going to really go deeply into this, and we will be able to share these slides because on the next page, it's a quick reference guide on when to refer students for depending on their project. But just going over the ones on the right, you are less likely to use this for teen research, but I just wanted to bring them to your attention. So Health Service, Nursing and Academic Edition, that is really for nursing students. So if a student happens to be in an AP class, they might want something that is peer-reviewed articles and talks about PCOT. So that might be a good fit for them. But you'll see on the left-hand side, I suggest for most middle school and high schoolers that the Health Source Consumer Edition would be better for them. Legal Information Reference Center. Again, this is really heavily legal information, but it's really more like forms. So tax filing and forms as opposed to maybe looking up cases. So again, it's really more related to like legal that has to do with business. And then military and government collection. This could be relevant to a student who is doing any research about government or as well as the military. I know here we teach about cybersecurity as one of our programs. So like that is a popular one that they go to. Novelist, as you know, that's really used internally more by librarians, not that students can't use it for book recommendations, but for research, they're not really going to that. Primary search is meant for elementary school. So when we're talking about teens and high schoolers, it's probably too young of a level for them for the information that they're going to find there. Regional business news and small business reference center. If the student is interested in starting their own small business, this is where these two could be helpful, especially the small business reference center is a lot of like formation documents that you might want to consider when building your own business. So these two can have some good information for, you know, the local business, but you'll see generally if I have a student that's coming to me that's just looking to do an assignment for a business class, my top one would be the Business Source Elite because they're usually researching big companies, and that's why I typically go to that one first. The Teacher Reference Center, again, unless a student is in a class about education or is trying to learn about education, educational theories, this is really one that's more for teachers. Peterson's Test and Career Prep, excellent resource for students for test prep, but it's not something you go to for research. And Heritage Quest, that is genealogy. So again, unless they're doing a genealogy project, these ones on the right, they're less likely to use, but I just wanted to make you aware that all of these are provided by the New Jersey State Library. So to now go deeper into when to use each of these, and like I said, I'm going to share the presentation. This would be a great quick resource to print out. If you're working with a student who is an emerging adult, that might be a college student or doing AP research where they're required to have peer-reviewed articles, then I highly suggest Academic Search Premier. This is the first database I bring students to at the university every single time. And sometimes we don't even need to leave the database. We almost always find what we need here, but this is an absolutely amazing one. Now, if you have a middle schooler coming to you, the equivalent of that is the Middle Search Plus. If you have a high schooler coming to you, then the Master File Elite, it's meant for general interest, which could be both high schoolers and adults. So Academic Search Premier is where you're going to find the scholarly peer-reviewed articles, but they also have magazines and newspapers. Master File has magazines, reference books, and primary source documents. Middle Search has magazines, biographies, and primary sources. So just to kind of show, like, depending on what they need, the main differences. Now, if students are searching current events, I know in the public libraries you have physical newspapers that you can show them, but Newspaper Source Plus is a great place to not only find local newspapers, but also global newspapers. So if they want to see how something is being covered now or around the world, this can be extremely helpful to them. Points of View Reference Center is extremely helpful, and a lot of the assignments I'm seeing in the writing classes tend to discuss social issues. And if they do need to prepare for a debate, a persuasive essay, or an opinion paper, Points of View Reference Center is really great that it does have peer-reviewed articles, magazines, newspapers, but it also have videos, infographics, reference information, and something called excuse me. I don't want to say opinion essays. I forget, they do refer it as something essays, but they will show a pro and a con about specific topics. So if they are trying to argue one way or the other, this is a really great resource. So if there is like a social issue that they're trying to show the pros and cons about something particularly, this can be a really great database. And if you do have students that are predominantly Spanish speaking, Referencia Latina is an amazing database for them that they can use that all the articles in Spanish. However, just be aware the rest of the EBSCO database is in English. So the functionality and the interface is still in English, but the articles will be entirely in Spanish. And this includes reference information from encyclopedias, articles, images, and health or education resources. Now to the subject-specific databases, the Business Source Elite. This is really great for anyone who has to research a company, if they're a business student, or if they might happen to be a young entrepreneur. This source is like my go-to source when it comes to them looking for business information. ERIC tends to be more for teachers, but sometimes students are required to talk about learning theories or to reflect on how they learn or maybe what kind of learner they are. So that's when you might want to go to ERIC for that. Greenfile is like anyone that has any environmental information. This is a great one. They do cover some overlapping social issues as well, but it's absolutely amazing for any environmental project that they might have. It has so many more additional resources than Academic Search Premier. And again, this will include peer-reviewed papers, magazines, and newspapers. Health Source Consumer Edition, as I said, this one is really good for students because it's going to be more reference-based. It's tertiary information that's more of an overview as opposed to in-depth articles meant for nursing or doctoral students. And the Literary Reference Center, whenever students have to research about a book or any analysis that has been done about the book, this is one of the go-to resources for the Literary Reference Center. It's very helpful that it has biography, summaries, analysis, criticism for tons and tons and tons of books. So this can be extremely helpful. So there are tons of filters that you can use once you get into the database. And in a moment, I will demonstrate because I would say that almost all of these, with the exception of one or two, are EBSCO products. So I will show you what the EBSCO interface looks like, but full text. So it depends how your library is set up. Some libraries for full text, students might need to request an interlibrary loan if they can't find the full text version. So then you might want to suggest full text. Our university and some other libraries have this button that it can actually check all your other databases that you're subscribed to and to see if you have the article maybe accessed in another way. So there's two possible ways that they could use it, find articles that don't have full text. But if you're with a student and they need something like right now, then full text means you're definitely going to get articles that you can read and print right now. You don't have to wait for it to come through an interlibrary loan. Peer reviewed. This is a huge thing for AP classes and for college students that there's three terms you might hear. You might hear academic article, scholarly article, or peer-reviewed article. And there is a button that you can select to make sure if they have to have a peer-reviewed article that it just brings back peer-reviewed. Currency. If they are finding too many results, you can bring it down to the last year, last 5 years, last 10 years, or a custom set of time period. And then source type. So if they know for a fact that they just want newspapers or they just want magazines, they will be able to select that. I'm going to stop my share to reshare. And as I'm resharing, if questions come up, please put them in the box and we will answer them at the end. All right.
I put that in the chat, but some people might have joined late to see that.
Perfect. So you all have your own personal websites and your own ways to access your databases. But also the state library has a way to access the databases. And just for convenience for me, that is how I'm going to access them today. But you would normally access these through your own library websites. So the one I'm going to demonstrate today is Academic Search Complete. See, I did it yesterday and it didn't ask for it. Sorry, 1 second as I put my card in.
And as you all know, we did just sign the contract for a year licensing for the next year. So that's why all these databases are, we're demoing them. Huh. I could get mine out. I don't use it very often, I admit, but.
Oh, no. Yeah, if you have yours.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm just gonna.
Sorry about that. Yesterday when I practiced, it brought me right in. Or, yeah, because I want to show your end.
Now, do you want me to? I'll just dictate my number to you.
Okay, thanks.
Because I think you have to put the whole thing in. It's the 23009 000 52 3153.
Thank you.
I don't know. Let's hope it works. Whew.
All right, so we are in academic search complete. I am going to search, my student says they want to know about the connection between mental health and anxiety. So I would explain to the student that if you're using a search phrase that's anything more than one word, you're going to want to put it into quotation marks so it keeps the phrase together. But this is what I mean here, that this can inspire additional search terms. So I'm putting in mental health, but we might want to also search up mental illness. We might want to search up mental disorder or psychiatric illness. I'm going to connect it with and in all capitals and anxiety. So I personally like writing in the search term. I find that easier, but if you do want to use the advanced search that you put mental health on one line and you put anxiety in the other and it's already connecting with and, you can do that. So once, I'm not certain how familiar you are or aren't with this, over the past 6 months, all the filters used to be on the left-hand side, all the filters are on the top now. So this is where we talked about if you only want full text articles, you would select full text. If you only want peer-reviewed articles, it's peer-reviewed. But what is great is for every article, they are telling you on top what kind of article this is. So it's less guessing for a student to try to figure out if it's peer-reviewed, if it's a journal, is it something else? This is where you could say, I only want information from the past year, past 5 years, past 10 years. And maybe the student said, just a magazine is fine. I don't need academic journals. So I'm just going to say, all right, just search in magazines. And this also limits the amount of searches we need to do. Okay, great. So there are different ways that I had said that you can access the actual articles. By clicking access options, there's the PDF version is friendlier for printing, but the online text version is better if the student would like it translated to them or read to them out loud. The online full text version can do that. When you see access now, a lot of the times that means it's an open access. So it will give you an external link. And I'm trying to find full text finder. Okay, great. So now this full text finder is what I said, that sometimes they think this article is a great fit, but right now you can only get the abstract. You won't be able to actually read the full text article. If you do click full text finder, it's going to look through all the other databases that that card is subscribed to, and then they can take you directly to the article. However, if for any reason it isn't able to find it anywhere else, by clicking contact a librarian for assistance with this item, that's when you would be able to request an interlibrary loan. And then the student would still be able to get the article through an email. Yes. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes to see which direction I wanted to show things. Well, so I'll just, yeah. All right. The newest feature it has is natural language. So sometimes I will do a mix of both, or especially if students have certain topics that our search phrases just don't seem to really be getting what's relevant for them. I will put in there, it could be their thesis statement, it could be their research question, it could be just what they kind of explained that they're looking to research. So I'm going to put in a full research question. So how does anxiety affect mental health? Oh, full text, advanced search. Oh, okay. Natural language. Interesting. Advanced search. Okay, then I think it depends on the one that you're subscribed to, because I thought I practiced last night. Sorry about that. Usually right here, there is a button that you can shift on and off that says natural language, and then it will create a Boolean search. And it's fascinating to see how complicated Boolean searches that they have. So depending on which ones you subscribe to, they might have EBSCO might have a natural language feature here. Otherwise, you do need to stick with the Boolean operators. When you do have the articles, the student to actually read the article, this is great for the summary. This can inspire additional search terms here, but accessing here is where they would then read the article. If they want, you can print it at your libraries, you can email it to the student so they have it. If they're researching themselves, they can also add an article to their Google Drive, or they can add it to their OneDrive. We also say if they're just creating a list of links, that just a reminder that this expires after 24 hours and that it's important to create a link, which will then create a it'll create a permalink. Whoops, no, go back. That you would then copy. We are going to show citations at the end, so I'm going to come back to that. All right. So that was just like some quick ways to see the new layout of EBSCO. And like I said, almost all of the databases I showed you are going to have that similar interface because they are all owned by EBSCO. Okay, great. Yes. All right. So a lot of students are allowed to use citation generators. They don't have to make them from scratch. We do recommend that they look at the ones that are available in the databases. However, especially if they're using EBSCO, when you do use EBSCO, it usually defaults to APA, and you actually have to hit the down arrow to select MLA. So it's important that they know whether it's APA or MLA that they need to cite it. And the biggest thing that I've noticed that a citation tends to get wrong is that it'll do title case when there should be sentence case, or it might do sentence case when there should be title case. So we always suggest to students, hey, the great thing about the databases is it will create a citation for you. However, you should always double check it against the style guide. And then over here, we have the different kinds of style guides. So if you are familiar with Purdue OWL, it has gotten very pop-up-y, and it can be very distracting for students to use. So Excelsior Online is a new, here we go, great, sort of replacement for Purdue, that it's way cleaner. They're keeping it up to date, and it's a really amazing resource to refer students to. And then there is specifically a citation section that will talk about APA and MLA. And it has all the same things that Purdue has, how to do in-text citations, how to do works cited, how to format, and there's even a fun little MLA activity for them to practice their MLA knowledge. So this is one of the newer places that students are being referred to for quick information if they don't have the physical MLA. Now, of course, at your reference desks, you might have the actual style guide, but I know at college level, students aren't required to buy it anymore. So these online resources are becoming extremely popular. As well as, okay. The MLA Style Center. This is the publisher of the MLA Handbook. Here they have citing sources that can also be helpful to students, as well as APA has one, the APA Style Guide. And again, this goes through on what to do for are you doing in-text citations? Do you need to format it? Mechanics of style. So all of this can be extremely helpful when students are trying to figure out how to put together their in-text citations and their references pages. All right. So, there are 3 different ways that are being taught, and there may be other ways beyond that, but these are sort of the 3 main ways that students are being taught on how to evaluate their sources. CRAP method has been around, I think, since 2004, if not earlier. So I know most of you have probably heard of this one. But what's becoming even more popular is lateral reading, and SIFT is a slightly more detailed version of that lateral reading. And we're going to practice those 3 right now. So with the CRAP method, the idea is that you're evaluating an article almost vertically by looking at the article itself, or possibly the about page or the publication, but staying on that web page or that website. You're trying to figure out, okay, is this article recent? Is this article relevant to my assignment? Who wrote this article? Are they an expert on the topic? Is this publication a reliable publication? What is the accuracy of this article? Do they happen to link to other information? Do they cite their sources? And what was the purpose or intent of creating this piece? Some of the things have become a little problematic with CRAP is saying that you have to have a certain authority, because that silences some voices that might have some information that is still valid to hear. And that to really see if someone is an authority in a subject, you really do almost have to do lateral reading to research more about that person. So at quick glance, this can be really helpful just to see, okay, how old is this? Social issues, we say last 5 years. Certain topics can go maybe up to 10 years. Now, if it's a literary analysis, yeah, that can go way older. But just what is their topic specifically, and when should you use this? So some still use this, some don't use this as much, but this was a quick way. Some ways it was was that a formal checklist. Now it's kind of a little looser, more just like looking at these, how many red flags are coming up by looking at these things, and judging if there's too many red flags, maybe this article isn't a good fit, or if there's only one, then maybe we could use this article. So let's just say everything's looking great, but it's a 10-year-old article. Well, okay, is there another article that's recent that you could use pieces of both of them to show that both of them are supporting the claims you're trying to make? So we're going to practice applying the CRAP method very quickly by going to this website, which Sharon is going to put into the link. Read through the article and try to assess, is the article current? Is the author an expert? Do they cite their sources? And was this article created to inform, educate, sell you something, or persuade you? So try to think about those questions as you're reading. But remember, the main rule is that you kind of need to stay on the website. So you can click to other pages on the website, but for CRAP, technically you're supposed to kind of stay on the page itself or inside the website. So we're going to spend a few minutes doing that.
Let us know if you have any issues, either copying, pasting it, or getting to it.
I'm going to give you about 1 more minute to try to answer the questions for yourself. Okay, so since we want to leave enough time for questions, I am going to move forward. Is the article current? It's debatable. So it's over 5 years. It's less than 10. So like that's more like a yellow flag to me, not quite a red flag. But it's talking about soda taxes that were raised at that time. So I would almost want to do additional research to see, well, do they still exist? Is this outdated information? So that's something I would have to look into further. Authority is the author and expert. If you click on her name in the website, it doesn't actually, it makes you sign in. Like you can't actually find out too much more. You can see what else she wrote on the page, but it's a little hard to tell, but it seems just not going off the website, like she might be an expert on the topic. Is the information accurate? They talk about what's going on, but they don't really refer to any other sources of where they're getting their information from. And then the purpose, was this article created to inform, educate, sell you something, or persuade? Uh, it's some of the language is a little bit more of a persuadey language, especially the last sentence, that it seems a little more emotional in how they're talking about the topic. So it might be a little tough for a teen to say, wait, is this to inform or educate me, or was this meant to persuade me? So this is to show you how sometimes crap can be really helpful to quickly go through a website, but sometimes it's lacking in really helping you to evaluate that information. So that's why we're then going to move on to lateral reading. So lateral reading is leaving a site after a quick scan and opening up new browser tabs in order to judge the credibility of the site. So it is literally, okay, I see this article, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type something in about the author, about the publication, just to learn a little bit more about it. Just because of timing, we don't have time. Whoop, it just wants to automatically play to watch this. But since we will be sharing out the presentation, you can watch this to see a little bit more detail on the experiment that they did to see how fact checking was more efficient. All right, so same article. What I want you to do is open up a new tab in Google and whatever Google search term do you want to use, but search up, is this author credible? Does this author have any bias? And now that Google does let you ask full questions because of the AI, but also the website's links will give you information. So you're looking up, is the author credible? Does the author have any bias? Then look up, is the publication reliable? Does the publication have any bias? So we're going to give you a couple minutes to do that. So I know I didn't give you very much time as we are running out of time, but This is really helpful for .orgs or news sites that are .coms, where students might not be perceiving if there is or isn't bias in a particular piece by looking this up to see, does this publication, whether it's a news source, does this have any bias, or is this author known for having a specific point of view? So if you look this up, the author is credible, the publication has been long running, but they both have bias. They are funded by fast food industry and food companies to say that sugar is healthy, or that corn doesn't, all the different things that they're being funded by these companies. So there might be a conflict of interest of them saying that these things are healthy for you when they're being funded by the people that want them to say that this is healthy for you. So just being aware that there might be that bias in what they are writing, and saying maybe there would be a different resource that would be a better fit. The last method is SIFT, where you stop, you investigate the source, you find other coverage, and you trace claims. Again, because there's time, you can look at this handout when we send out the presentation, but we're going to practice it in real time. So you may or may not have seen this video, but I'm just going to show you a short snippet of social media. Now, this is just a video, but again, this could be something that they find as a news article, a claim that they hear on the news, but in this case, this is the claim that the student might be hearing.
I'm not hearing the sound now.
Oh, sorry, it's because I kept resharing. Thank you.
Sure.
The grizzly bear populations started leaving Yellowstone National Park this morning, and it is throwing the scientific community into a tizzy, wondering why they are leaving. Grizzly bears are not known to travel in herds like this all at once and great distances, and they are headed towards Salt Lake City, Utah. I reported earlier this week about the mountain lions that left Yellowstone. That was
So again, when you get the presentation, if you want to watch the whole thing, you can, but applying stop. So the claim that we're hearing, like if you're reading an article and there's a claim that that kind of gives you a red flag, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard anyone else say this, or this seems a little like, really, this happened, or anything that just might trigger something like, I don't know if this is accurate. So you're going to want to stop. And that's when you start to think about, okay, well, where is this information coming from? So you investigate the author. Is the author credible? You could do a Google search for this person, because it's similar to lateral reading. There's information about other videos, but there's not too much information about him. So then is the image credible? In the world of AI and Sora 2 right now is changing everything, and it's so hard to believe anything. But is this video real? If an image is real, which reverse image search can sometimes help with that. Okay, where's this coming from? It's coming from social media, checking the person. All right, so like already it was a little hard to find information about this person. So now we're going to try to find better coverage. So we could literally Google grizzly bears leaving Yellowstone National Park and see, is anyone else reporting on this? Is anyone else making these claims? If you did have like an image on social media, you could always do reverse image search or describe that image. So an example of when the Pope, there was a picture of the Pope in a puffer jacket, that was AI created, but if you just said Pope in puffer jacket, you could start to see articles of pictures and then do the reverse image search. So that's one way that you could change it. Again, because of timing, if you did search this up, there are tons of articles that show up to say that, no, this is completely fake. So then is the information presented in its true context? By reading those articles, you'll find out what the actual context of this video was. So the information that you would find in searching is that the video was not from July of this year, but January of this year. The video was not recorded in Yellowstone National Park, but Bear Country, USA in Rapid City, South Dakota, and the bears were not leaving. They're just allowed to freely walk around the park. So when I show this video to my students, we have conversations both of, was this misinformation or disinformation? Because did he see this video and assume something, which is misinformation, or did he know that he pulled this out of context, which would be disinformation? So I don't know his motive there, but just SIFT is another way of just stop. Let's look at the claims that are raising red flags. Is anyone else making these same claims? See if you can find anyone else that supports it. So hopefully now you're feeling a little more confident in conducting effective reference interviews to better understand a teen's research needs, identify and navigate the key research databases available through the New Jersey State Library, demonstrate how to use database filters to refine search results and locate specific types of sources, show teens how to find and use pre-made citations within databases to properly credit their sources, and explain and apply critical source evaluation methods such as CRAP, lateral reading, and SIFT to help teens assess information credibility. Does anyone have any questions?
There was one that came up in the chat from Marissa when you were talking about hitting the full text button. She said, does that search, and then that's right under the search bar, right? If you click full text, it will search all of the articles for full text, all of the databases?
Yes.
Okay. It's a little button right under the search bar. I know it might be hard to see.
Yeah, I can share.
Especially,
It's
I don't
right
know.
here.
Yeah, this is definitely the screen is a little small.
And now it'll only bring back articles that you can read.
Does anyone have any other questions? I don't think I saw any that weren't answered.
There's one that just popped up,
Oh,
which
okay.
I think
Yeah.
would be a you question.
Will that search all of your other databases? I think it only searches, like if you went into, I don't know, middle search Premier, it will only search all of the full text in that particular database. I don't know of one way that you can search every single one. You have to do it individually. So if you went into the what's the one on points of view, that one, you'd have to click out of one and then go into that one and then hit full text. That's what you meant, right, Christine, when you said full text? It wasn't searching all of them together. It was just the individual one you were in.
Correct. So when we don't select full text, if you come across one, that's where we saw the button that said it would check all the other databases to see if that article can be accessed.
And then another question is, do you have any handouts designed for students to have as reference as they are working independently after instruction assistance from a librarian? Kind of like, I think, the SIFT, document.
Short answer is no. So in my one-shots, I make worksheets that really breaks down where they write their thesis statement or research question, break it down to research questions, make a search statement. And so I have handouts then, but usually when I do a reference appointment, I have them have a laptop and mimic what I'm doing on my end. So yeah, there's not usually a handout I give when I'm doing a reference appointment. Is that all the questions?
Marissa says that they do pay for EBSCO Discovery Service, EDS, which aggregates searching and will indicate other databases we own, such as Gale.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then sometimes if you can't find it, it'll let you know. And then there's that little button that says, contact a librarian. And that generally takes you to your library's form for an interlibrary loan.
Which of course we do at the State Library too. We have Casey Conboy who's doing interlibrary loans. So hopefully if there's questions beyond that, you can certainly reach out to him as well. Or me, and I'll reach out to him. And speaking of
yeah, we are at 12 o'clock, so I'm so sorry about the time, everyone. We knew this one was going to be like one of the longest sessions, so thank you so much for hanging in with us. We have 4 more sessions coming up, but just realize they are not necessarily week after week. On October 14th, we're going to be talking about both databases that the state library, but also online databases that you can refer students to that helps them with researching career and college prep. Then on October 28th, we're going to be talking about researching current events and social issues. Again, both databases and online resources. It's really go into .orgs and talk about how we can analyze for bias and be aware of bias. And then session 4, researching with open data and government sources. Looking if they need statistics and information. And then session 5, which will be in December, researching with AI tools. This will be just kind of talking about an overview about which ones we do recommend that students use, which ones have more copyright issues, and then some things that we're finding in studies that students are not realizing about AI that you might want to educate them as you're helping them with, as they might talk to you in your programs or your one-on-one reference. Ways that you can talk about, like hallucinations, for example, is something that they are not aware of whatsoever. So we will be going a little deeper into how teens are using it and how we can effectively help them use it and ethically use it. Also coming up.
Yeah, there's going to be some additional training sessions that the vendors are doing. So Gail will be doing an SAT and ACT prep with Peterson's Tested Career Prep on October 22nd at 2. And then EBSCO will be doing the new Reference Center interfaces Tuesday, October 28th at 2. And the links for this have been shared through the State Library's Direct, NJ State Library Direct online newsletter. And I've also shared it on some of the discussion lists. But if you're interested, ask me and I'll send the links again.
And they'll go deeper into points of view reference, which we said is really great if they're doing debates or looking for opinion sources, and then literary reference source for any literature reviews I might be doing.
And we would love it if you could click on the QR code or also there's the underneath the URL for the evaluation form. It's a very short 4 quick question evaluation of this. And I will send it out to you later too, just in case you can't do it right now. So thank you very much for attending this. I really appreciate it.
And lastly, if any of you felt like your question did get answered, or if you come up with a question after this, I just put my email at c.jansen@fdu.edu. You can email me and I can follow up with any other questions that you might have. And we look forward to having you in future sessions.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.